Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thanks for being on time, guys. We're going to just wait a couple more minutes. You know, kind of straggling, so we'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to get started. Get started. So, my name is Dave Kovar. How many guys have done a session with me before? A couple of you guys? Okay, cool. Today's session, obviously, titled A New Look at Recruiting, Referrals, Retention, and Reactivation. And what I'm going to do is kind of go through stuff that I'm working on with my team right now that we find invaluable. So, a quick little history. This is in November 1978, I opened up my first school, about 6 months out of high school. So, I'm pretty close to going my 40th year doing martial arts professionally. This is all I've ever done. It's my only job. With the exception of 2 years, I supplemented my income by painting houses during the day and top martial arts in the evening. And it's been interesting to see the trend, how things have changed, and to see firsthand all the different things that are going on. And how many guys been in business for more than 10 years? Anybody? Yeah. Well, the industry changes a lot. Okay, it's a completely different industry than it was 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. It's still a great time to be in the martial arts industry, but it's way different than it was. And there's a few things that we find, it's kind of like this. There's tried and true principles that are universal, will always be around. And then there's stuff that's kind of like, maybe, I don't want to use the word trendy, but kind of something that's current, that's going on. And I think some of the keys that I've seen for success, first and foremost, is there is, in my mind, very little correlation between what you teach and the success of your school. Okay? There are really successful traditional martial arts, and there's really unsuccessful traditional martial arts. There's really successful mixed martial arts schools or Krav Maga schools, as well as the unsuccessful, right? And so what I want to focus on is what I've seen that we do in our schools that works, and what I've seen that successfully didn't work. And none of the stuff I'm going to share with you is stuff that's theory or out of a book. It's my own personal experience. And then what we've seen working in the school. And for starters, just kind of, I just put up some why martial arts. And I think that what we do is super important. How many of you guys have ever had somebody that said, hey man, training with you saved my marriage, right? You know, it's like, it saved my life. I was going down the wrong path, right? Or maybe if you teach kids, hey, my kid, he was going this way, now he's going that way. How many of you guys ever heard someone say, yeah, my kid's doing better at school, right? Have you ever had anybody that trained with you for 2 or 4 or 5 years that told you, came up to you and said, golly gee, I wish I would have never started training in your school? You've never heard that, okay? What you have heard is, thank you so much, I'm so glad you're here. And I think that's important to understand, is because what we do is we're not selling some used car or some new worthless training. What you guys do has massive value. And why that's important is because it should give you, there's a great quote, the human mind is easily influenced by anything spoken with conviction. And when you believe in your product, it shows in every time you talk about it, right? And so it's important just to remember, hey man, it covers a lot of stuff. It depends on what you teach and how you teach and everything, but all in all, you think about any issue that faces a kid, okay? Bullying, obesity, lack of role models, lack of respect, lack of focus, lack of discipline. We address that in martial arts. You think about almost any or many issues that face adults, okay? Out of shape, high stress, fear of violence. You guys with me? We address all that stuff and we do our job well. And so it ought to be that people should be knocking on the doors to come into our school. So I think part of it is just really making sure we educate the public on what it is we do and how we do it. And also, we have to make sure we back it up with a friggin' good program. So there's a great quote by Stephen Covey that goes like this: you can't talk yourself out of a situation you behave yourself into. And what that basically means, if your program is only mediocre, it doesn't matter how good you advertise. You know what I'm saying? By the way, 20, 30 years ago, you could be mediocre in your business. But that's not the case anymore. Now, you pretty much have to be good. You have to have a good product. So it addresses all these things and more things. And so I just think it's a good place to start. It only happens if we can keep students up. Because only someone trains with us for 3 weeks, hey, maybe they learn some little tip that would help them out. But in all, the real benefits of martial arts training is in long-term training. And it's pretty hard to keep someone for a long time. Okay? So we have in our schools kind of what we call the four beliefs. Belief number 1 is believe they're interested. And what that means is every time that I interact with somebody, I'd like to think I do this, and I want my team to do it about martial arts. I'll run into somebody, I'm at a party somewhere, and someone goes, hey man, are you that guy that teaches martial arts? I believe they're interested. That's my intention. I talk to them as if they're interested in my program. Okay? That's step belief number 1. Okay? How many of you guys have ever had that adult that was sitting over there, if you have a kids program, up in the stands like this with his arms crossed, watching program? You ever had that guy in your school? This guy's name was Dennis. He was the head of the Department of Justice for the Sacramento County. About 6'4", about 240, this burly cop voice, you know what I'm saying, really intimidating character. He sat in the stands for 4 years watching his son train, Casey. And I never once approached him and asked if he was interested in training, because I thought he was thinking, man, I don't need that martial arts stuff. I'm in law enforcement, you know what I'm saying? So, and then about 4 years later, I look out, I'm walking down, and one of our rooms has a mirror. I look at the corner, I see this big old dude, right, with a martial arts uniform and a white belt tied in correctly, in and out. You all know what I'm talking about? And I go, it's Dennis. And I walk up to him, I go, hey, sir, what do you do this? It took me 4 years to build the courage to get out here. The whole time, I thought he was thinking, his kids don't want to do that, right? Although we have a pretty intense adult program, he was thinking, I don't know if I can do that or not. He was one conversation away. You guys got that? From being involved. I didn't believe he was interested. Okay? Step number 2, someone comes to your school. Step number 2 is believe they'll enroll. The most important thing that I see, we have, obviously our schools are set up with most of them have 3 or 4 full-time instructors. We have 9 schools in the Sacramento Valley. And 3 or 4 full-time people, one head instructor, 1 program director that co-manage the location, and some full-time maybe instructors under that. And the one most important thing that I see in the enrollment director, program director, whatever you want to call the person that asks for money, okay, that does enrollment, is they got to believe the program's worth it, and they got to have not a problem looking them in the eye. Because if your program is $50 a month and you have a hard time asking for that, okay, even though it's really cheap and you say that'll be $50 a month, people will pick up on that, okay? But if your program is $200 a month and you absolutely believe wholeheartedly your program is worth $400 a month, it's no harder to enroll. It really isn't, okay? It's like price point. I know Mr. Clark talked about in one of the sessions. Every time we raised our rate, the only thing that happened is we got a higher quality student. It virtually never affected how many people we got in the door. That's our methodology of running business. Now, that doesn't mean it's crazy now the line. It's just a slow and steady growth, right? So step number 1 was believe they're interested. Step number 2 is believe they'll enroll. Step number 3 is believe they'll get their black belt with you. Whatever that means to you. Put a 4-year goal, some kind of, something they're going to get to a certain proficiency level. If you have a ranking system, what is the, like they're considered like an expert level, okay? Because here's the deal, you know how hard it is to keep a student for 4 years. It's really hard. There's a lot of things they can get distracted and not discontinue their training, okay? But if we treat them right, we can get them that level, okay? The 4th one is believe they'll train with you for a decade. That's what, when someone comes into my school, that is what I try to project and talk about. Is you're going to be training here for the next 10 years, don't you? And maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but I'm going to do everything in my powers to keep them. Okay? And the reason why this is important, a lot of times when we have someone that's been training with us for 3 or 4 or 5 years, we take them for granted. Meaning we just kind of assume they're always going to be there. You guys have all had someone that kind of drifted off after a few years because we didn't treat them like we do that new beginner that's still on the introductory course that we're kind of romancing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at every stage, it's really important to kind of believe, okay, they'll continue. So, just kind of my thought, what's going to keep you successful? To me, it's martial arts first, teaching second, business third. What does that mean? In my experience, I've seen guys in the martial arts profession industry that have gotten a great deal of quick success, but they faded. Next thing you know, they're out of business. And it's usually because they put the business first, meaning they put the money first. Hey, I have no problem, believing and making a good living teaching martial arts, right? I mean, I want to provide that for myself and my team. However, I know that if I start thinking short term and just about that, it affects what's going on. So martial arts first meaning I do my best with my team to make sure they're still training, right? Because somehow, I don't know about you, how many guys teach on a regular basis? Would you guys agree you're a better instructor when your own personal training's going well? There's that X factor, man. There's something about it. When you're in the groove, you just walk out with that extra spark. Okay? That's half the job of having a good class, is being passionate about the martial arts. You guys with me on that? And because our product is what happens on the mat, half the effect of having a good business is having a teacher that wants to be there, that knows what the heck he's doing. That's what I'm saying. So it's kind of those steps. That's what I always go back to. So if I'm going to go coach somebody's school, first thing I do is I take a look at their program, what they're doing, and how can we make that better? And then number 2 is how the methodology is with their teaching. And then I worry about the business aspects, because it's kind of like a bad restaurant that opens and advertises a lot. If their food sucks, they're going to be out of business just more quickly if they advertise it, right? Yeah. All right. So many of you guys have heard this. If not, we call these the 5 mindsets. Let me explain the concept with this. Is that as your school grows and develops, what happens is you inevitably will pick up different systems that you learned from this guy, you saw there, you implemented, and pretty soon you have all these kind of somewhat sophisticated systems in place. Like I'm going to talk to the student at this point, and they get this rank, I'm going to have a one-on-one with them, I'm going to upgrade them at this point, and all these steps that come along the way. And what tends to happen often is we forget about, what do I got to remember to do every day? So about 6 or 7 years ago, I got together with a lot of my senior instructors that run schools, and we sat down and we said, okay guys, we got all these complicated systems that in place that we usually don't do all of it anyway, that we're supposed to, okay? What can we remember to do every day? I got to show up every school. When I walk the door, I walk in, what's most important that I can do every day that's going to make a difference, okay? And so this is what we came up with. So the first one is we're the friendliest place in town. What the heck does that mean? Do you guys understand? How many guys enrolled an adult male in your program in the last 30 days? Anybody? Lots of you guys. Do you understand? Whoever that was, they didn't drive down the street and go, oh, let me do some of that, okay? Pull in and enroll. Do Do you realize that they've driven by your location a bunch of times, they've been on your website a bunch of times, okay? They maybe have a friend in the program, and they finally, maybe after years, have the courage to walk in the door. Okay, would you guys agree with me? And you got the guy that walks in, got his chest kind of puffed out, lets you know he played football in high school. You guys all have that guy come to your school? Yeah, you know, it is. He's kind of unseen. You know, he maybe doesn't feel like, you know, maybe he had an experience happen where he's in a parking lot, he's with his family, and someone approached him, he didn't feel like he, you know, felt like he could defend himself. Who knows what his reason was, right? He finally had the courage to walk in your door. Of course, the same with a lady or a kid. And so very quickly, like literally within the first minute, they're going to decide if they like you or not. Okay? On an unconscious level. There's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. Anybody ever heard of it or read it? Great book. It talks about first impressions. And so what we want to do is we want to hopefully have an environment when they walk in, they feel welcome. Because a lot of people, they don't know if they're going to have to spar with the instructor, or they're going to have a brick broke over their forehead, or what's going to, and so just walking in and having someone put them feel at ease makes an incredibly big difference. And not just with the instructors, but hopefully you try to develop that culture amongst your student body too. Like you're badass guys in the school. Hopefully you cultivate an environment where they're the most friendly, they're the most approachable. Right? And so our kind of rule is if you don't know somebody, it's your job to go introduce yourself to them. Okay? And that can make an incredibly big difference. So now I'm deciding, should I train here or not? Within 5 or 10 minutes, I've met 2 or 3 people. They welcome me to school. I feel good about this place. Man, I'm ready to go. By the way, just on a side note, if you want more adults in your program, there's 2 reasons why adults are afraid that it won't be martial arts. Okay? Fear of injury and fear of looking stupid. Okay, so if you can address those, you can't just give them lip service. You guys know what I'm saying? Oh, you'll be fine. Snap the arm bar for class, right? That's not acceptable. So your class has got to be safe. Okay, they can be intense and still be safe, and you got to set someone up to not look stupid in front of their peers, right? If you can do those 2 things, you're going to end up with a lot more adults in school. Okay, so that's step number 1. We're the friendliest place in town. Step number 2 is we're the cleanest place in town. Now, what does that mean? You guys have all been to an establishment where it's not very well kept, and you've been to a business establishment where it is kept, right? Well kept, and there's a big difference. It just means somebody's mindful of their business. You can't always control how many times the phone rings, but you can control how clean the school is, right? And by the way, interestingly enough, this is more important. It's not as important for adult males as it is for moms and females. It's a way bigger deal, right? But that's usually that's usually controls what's going on. So it's important to try to get to. So that's one of those things I would just recommend, especially this time of year. September's a good time of year for us, and because we've been programmed since kindergarten to kind of get back into the routine in in September. Is that fair to say? Whether you're in school or not, whether you have kids or not, it's kind of like, okay, back to the routine. We let our routines kind of fall off in the summertime. So this is a great time to kind of say, all right, man, I'm going to give my school a facelift. What can I do? And it can be little things. My wife teaches preschool. She runs a preschool program, and they just move locations. And I went over there to help her move some boxes, and I used to paint a million years ago, and I looked out of the parking lot, and you can't even see the white parking spaces. You know what I'm saying? They're really bad. And that's one of the few things I know how to do besides martial arts. So I went to the paint store, got myself a 4-inch roller. By the way, it's really fun to do if you don't do it very often. It's kind of like, oh yeah. And it took me an hour. I restriped the parking lot. Being in 30 places took me about an hour. And people were coming in. You would have thought I painted the whole building and retarred the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? It was just a little thing that just gave it a whole different look, right? So anytime you do add a bag, put up a poster, move, whatever it is, little things like that really tell your clientele that you care about your business. You know what I'm saying? That you're thinking about it. So little things, this is the time to do that, okay? The third one is we only teach great classes, never just good classes. Now, the reality is, how many of you guys have ever taught a mediocre class or a bad class? I've taught a lot of them, okay? How many of you guys ever walked off the mat thinking, hey, I'm pretty good, that was a pretty good class, right? How many of you guys ever walked off the mat thinking, what the heck happened tonight? But when you step on the floor, your intention is to teach you great classes. Everybody got that? And it's hard, man, it's hard. How many of you guys teach back-to-back 2, 3, 4 classes in an evening? Guys, I don't do that anymore, but I did it for 25 years. Some weeks I teach 40 to 45 classes in a week. On Wednesdays I would do sometimes as many as 10 classes in a week. I did morning classes 7 in the evening. Okay, voice is gone by Tuesday night, Wednesday, and then it's like you get there and all of a sudden you show up Thursday afternoon and you have that kid who usually is Justin about 7 years old. You know what I'm saying? He's that spinner, the mirror licker, that guy. How many guys got that kid in school? You know what I'm talking about? Not only does he show up, he brings 3 of his friends with him. And your assistant called 5 minutes before to say he couldn't be there. You guys all can identify with that. That's when you need to be mindful. That's when that becomes super important, okay? And it's not friggin' easy. But if you don't do it on purpose, you'll find yourself teaching mediocre classes more than you want. And honestly, what I try to do every time, imagine that you are my class. Okay, it's Monday night, 7 o'clock, it's the adult advanced class. You guys are all in. I look around the room and I go, all right, man, I don't want to teach anybody here their last class. I want everybody coming back one more time. Okay, what do I got to do? Because one of you, as a student, one of you is on the verge of quitting. I don't know which one of you. One of you guys is losing interest. Most people don't quit because of something that dramatic happened one time. Most people, their interest just kind of wanes. And they're one really good class away from being remotivated, or they're one mediocre class from not coming back. Okay? And so that's kind of what I try to program into my head when I step out on the floor. Okay? And then another little strategy that I'll do that I find real powerful is I'll find someone in class and I'll think, okay, I'm going to imagine that I just heard that you are losing interest and you're thinking about quitting. Okay? And then I'm going to just keep that in mind throughout the class. And if I realize that I did a lot of things different to cater to you more, that means I probably wasn't doing my job right before. Does that make sense? It's just an interesting little trick I play on myself to make sure that I try to interact with everybody. But it kind of gives you a perspective. So we only teach grade classes, never just school classes. Okay? Number 4 is we're excellent at student-parent communication. This is where I think as a profession we're the weakest. I have the privilege, I do a lot of traveling. In the last, last 5 years, I'm not exaggerating, I've been in hundreds of martial arts schools. Probably 2 guys have been in more schools than me, Bill Wallace and Eric Paulson. Besides that, I probably I've been to a lot, and it's cool, I love it. But what I see is I see a lot of different martial arts schools, styles, instructors, and it's cool to see how much better instructors there are than they were 10 or 15 years ago. Well, what I see is the weakness in our industry is feedback to people as to how they're doing. And I'm going to show you a really cool strategy a little bit later in the session called the 8-Step Student Progress Check that really will address how you can do that. But most people, they don't know. We don't give them enough clear, specific feedback on what they're doing well and how they can improve. Okay? And that's something that can really make a big difference. 30 seconds or a minute of meaningful dialogue with a student can have a massive effect on their ability to keep them. Okay? And number 5 is every day we look for opportunities to recruit new members. Okay? There's a gentleman that I see every day at the gym. I go, everybody has their different time to go to the gym. Mine's early in the morning. And for literally 15 years, I've been seeing this guy 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. He comes into the gym right as I leave, and we do the gym nod. You guys all know the gym nod, right? Yeah, right? So 5 years ago, okay, by the way, I don't even know this guy's name. Okay, you see him every day. 5 years ago, he walks into our headquarters school with his son. And he looks in the elevator and goes, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I go, "Oh yeah, this is my place." He goes, "You're kidding. I've been driving by here for 5 years. I wanted to get in here." So here's a guy that I saw every day of the week. You guys with me on that? And I never, ever bothered to engage him in a conversation. He could have been a lot further along than it was. And him and his son could both be a lot further along had I taken the initiative. So I promise you, in your circle, there are a bunch of people that are eligible, and not only eligible, but interested. But here's what we go wrong: is what we do is we fight over the low-hanging fruit. What I mean is, oh, guys, school down the street, man, they enroll. Like there's some number of students in your community, and those are the only people that are going to have potential instructors. Okay, how many students do you have in your school? 300. Wow. Okay. Now, if you had never opened your school up, okay, out of those 300, how many do you think would have been trained somewhere else? I'll tell you what I think. 30. I think the rest of them, you probably, because you had some event to drill them in. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? There are some people that are going to search it out. A lot of people that you have in your school, you have because you had an event to draw them to. You guys know what I'm saying? Or they had a friend that referred to you. So we really create our market. It's not just one piece of the pie. The pie can be a lot bigger. So right now, roughly, the nearest estimate that I've heard, about 3% of the population trains in martial arts. So all we got to do is get that to 6. You guys know what I'm saying? And that's really it. So so with we look for opportunities to recruit students every day. Our ability to be able to go beyond just the low-hanging fruit, just the people coming in. Let me give you an example. Is anybody here scuba certified? 2 people scuba certified. 3 people scuba certified. I've always wanted to be scuba certified, but I've just never done it. Okay, I've never taken the effort to do it. But if I was walking down the mall in my community with my wife some evening, and there was some guy there that had a booth that said, "Be scuba certified Tuesday night, You guys know what I'm talking about? Start Tuesday, Thursdays, I would do it. That's how a lot of people are for martial arts. How many of you guys have bumped into someone, they find out you do martial arts? Oh, I've always wanted to do that. Have you guys ever heard that? Yeah, so it's up to us to initiate that because they're out there. All the students you want are there. We just have to dig a little deeper. You know, they're not necessarily, we have to be a little more proactive. We just have to look for opportunities to recruit. Okay? And that's why I'm a big fan of referral events that you can have in your school that draw people in. Okay? So this is just something that I think is really important to think about. I try to huddle, every time we have a huddle with the team, we review this real fast, just make sure we're on it, you know, so everybody's got the steps. So whatever other systems that we have in place, that's great. But at the core, I wanted to remember we're the friendliest place, we keep the place clean, we teach great classes, we communicate well, and we are always thinking about recruiting. Okay? And if you can do those things every day, you know, a big difference is going to happen over time. Okay? Regardless of what else you do. All right. So what I have here, you know what, never mind. I'm going to back up because you'll be taking notes instead of, I'll cover that in a minute, instead of paying attention. I want to, before I switch gears, I want to talk about, obviously you saw the slide, what I think are the 6 most important rules in recruiting new members. And these apply to any method that you use. What I mean is it might be someone that comes to your school for the first time. It might be if you're out, you have a booth at a health and fitness show, you're doing a self-defense clinic for county workers, you guys know whatever it is, these 6 steps you can apply. Or for a kids program, if you're doing a birthday party or a wedding day, anything in between, these steps apply. So I'm going to go through these. Okay, number 1, never forget the impact martial arts training has on people. Let me explain what I mean by that. Okay, every time that you have an opportunity to interact with someone about martial arts training, I think what's important is that you don't, it's not just about the words, it's about conveying your feeling of how it's going to benefit them. Let me explain what I mean. So let's imagine, how many of you guys have a kids program? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of you guys. Okay, let's say in your kids program, let's say that Karate Kid 14 just came out. You guys got it? Karate Kid 14 came out, and the manager of the local movie theater called you up and said, hey man, I want to give you, do you want a booth opening weekend at Karate Kid 14? And by the way, it's right across the street from your school. I don't know about you, I think that would be pretty cool, okay? So you got a booth for the whole weekend at the opening of the movie, okay? And I work for you, okay? And I say I volunteer to work the 3 to 5 shift on Saturday, okay? And I tell you that I'm going to get, my goal is to get 5 new members, 5 appointments. So everybody have a setup, okay? So I'm going to work on Saturday 3 to 5, my goal is to get 5 appointments, okay? It's 4:45, I have 3 appointments, how many more do I have left? How many more do I need? 2 more. How much more time do I have? 15 minutes, okay? Lady walks up, she's got 2 kids. She's got a girl that's about 15 years old, and it's clearly not very fit, clearly lacks self-confidence. You know what I'm saying? The vibe is she's not very sure of herself, probably has, not a real good image, it's a hard time in life to be in. And the little boy's a little 8-year-old kid, he's like, you can tell he's a little wild man, he's the kid if you shave his head he'd have horns, he's that kid, right? And you look at the mom and you think, wow, if I can schedule this appointment, I'm gonna make my quota of 5. You may or may not get it, but if I look at the mom and I look at the daughter and I think to myself, man, she needs this. This is going to change her life completely if I get her in here, right? I mean, this is her whole life to be different. I'm going to teach her some healthy habits, build up her self-confidence, etc. And then I look at this little boy and I think, man, if he doesn't get in this program, who knows where he's going to go? He needs this program too. And I think that, and then I talk to the mom. Can you see how the words might be the same, but can you see how the meaning is going to be conveyed completely different? All right, it's because it's going to be a different conversation. So to me, that's the most important thing. When you're out and about, we should never apologize for trying to grow our school. Okay, we should never hang our head. Well, you don't want to do lessons, they're going to thank you later. They're going to thank you for it. Okay, so we should go about it with way more confidence. It doesn't mean you have to be pushy. If they're not interested, you're not going to force them. You guys know what I'm saying? But if someone shows an interest and you know they could benefit, in my mind, it's almost an obligation to get them going. All right, at least to get them to try. So if you remember to do that, everything changes for your recruiting strategies. All of a sudden, there will be opportunity everywhere. They say when people are lucky, you say, man, the guy's always lucky. There's 2 things, okay? Is they are present focused and they're paying attention to what's going on around them. They're looking, they see opportunity, okay? So next, brings the next step, look for opportunities to talk up your program, okay? So once you start looking, there's places all over the place, okay? Number 3, believe they're interested. What that means is when you have a conversation, I already brought that up with the 4 ways to believe they're interested in your program. Let's imagine that you and I are at a party, okay? And you hear I teach martial arts, and you come up to me, I'm getting punched, and you come up and say, hey, do you teach martial arts? Just go ahead and ask me. Say, hey, do you teach martial arts? Go ahead.
Yeah, you teach martial arts?
Yeah, what's your name?
Marty.
Nice to meet you, man. You know, I wouldn't just walk away, right? In other words, I would use that time, oh, he's interested. Not a small talk, but now, oh, I'm going to talk to him like he really is interested in the program. Does that make sense? So, believe they're interested. Number 4, ask questions about why they want to train. Okay? So what does that mean? So here's where most of us are very weak. By the way, guys, I was going to bring a handout that had these tips, okay, that somehow didn't make my travel bag. It's on me. And if anybody wants a copy of this PowerPoint, dave.kovar@kovars.com. I can't promise you get it anytime soon, but I'll get it. Yeah, I'll try to get it to you pretty soon. dave.kovar@kovars.com. Okay, and I'll send you a copy of it. Okay, just be patient. All right. So, what I mean by ask questions about why they want to train. How many of you guys kind of can take a look at someone and feel like you know what they're looking for? Do you guys realize you're often wrong? Myself included. Like I think, oh, I know what they're looking for, only to find out that's not what they're looking for. The best example I can give you is 5 or 6 years ago, there's this guy that comes into our headquarters school. It's the middle of the day. We have an adult executive traditional martial arts class going on at that time. And how can I say this politically correct? There are a bunch of somewhat out of shape middle-aged people. You guys got uncoordinated middle-aged people in class. This guy comes in, he's got a tap-out shirt, he's in his late 20s, real fit. You know, he's kind of standing there watching class, and I'm thinking, man, that's not what he wants to do. And at this particular school, I have a full-on Krav Maga program, I have a full-on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program, because the school's a multi-school. We have 4 classrooms. It's kind of like this, but not as big as this, but kind of the same concept. And so we have a lot to offer. Some of our schools, we only have 1 program. And so I clearly know he's not interested. So I start trying to bring him out the door to talk about our other things, right? And finally, he says, hey, wait a second, man. I want to do this. My dad got his black belt. I always want to get my black belt. That's what I want to do. And I read him completely wrong, right? And so one thing is we all do that on a regular basis. So what's super important when someone comes into your school is you ask them what they're looking for so that you can scratch their itch. Because for whatever reason you guys are still training in martial arts, I promise you it's different from why you started, okay? So some of you guys started, I started because of a kid named George Morgan. He was the school bully. I never got beat up by him, but I was scared to death I was going to get beat up by George Morgan. Okay, that was my motivation to get started in martial arts, right, when I was a kid. And we all had our reasons, okay? But I stayed for a lot of other reasons because I just loved it, right? So what I got to know, by the way, just a real quick story, we call it a white belt moment. So I have this distinct image, I won't go through the whole thing, but I have a distinct image of George holding the kid up against a chain link fence with 2 hands. This was in 5th grade, okay? And going, and knocking the kid out. George was like, I think shaving at 12 years old, you know, he was like taller than everybody. And he was a real bully. With me, he wasn't the guy that just barked. He was like I'm sure he would be described now as a psychopath, you know, or a sociopath. I forget which, you know what I'm saying? Not a good person. My very first karate class, I show up, and the first thing I learned, would you stand up? Don't hit or kick me, okay? But grab my chest, 2 hands. I learned a defense against a 2-hand chest grip. It was here is the move, rush drop, clear cover out, right? Thank you, sir. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Good move, bad move, it doesn't matter. That was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. You guys know what I'm saying? Because it addressed exactly what I was looking for. I left that class, I was so pumped, I had my chest all pumped out, I was so proud, I was also hoping someone would grab it because I was ready. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was we call it a white belt moment, that aha moment. I knew this is what I wanted to do. That's what we got to try to create. And when you do that, it's about asking questions about their one training. So you can really get to the point. That doesn't mean you have to do your introductory course any different, right? I mean, you can still do the same course, you can still have the same program, but if somebody's looking for fitness, somebody else looking for self-defense, they could still be doing, 2 guys could be side to side, and you could just explaining why this ties into what they're interested in. Does that make sense? Okay? But when knowing that is massive. And yes, you might get right at some of the time, but I promise you you're right a lot more of the time if you ask people why they're interested. Okay? Step number 4, invite them to your school. This is so basic. What does that mean? You're out and about, and here's the deal. You and I are at a party, right? And I say, yeah, you want to do it? Come in sometime. I give you my business card, okay? You take your business card. You're thinking, I'm going to do that. You put it in your pocket, and he forgets about it, right? I mean, he forgets about it. But when I make it time sensitive, you're 7 times more likely to show up, okay? If I say, hey, by the way, we have a self-defense class this Monday night. If you can make it, love to have you, right? When I can lock them and invite them to a specific time, they're way more likely to show up, okay? So, of course you do that when you're on the phone, of course you do that when you have a booth, but I'm talking about all those casual events when the subject of martial arts comes up, okay? Where you don't just give them your business card, try to give them a time limit, try to get a time frame. I believe we have a standing appointment at most of our schools. It's different, but most of our, it's Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. There's a slot open for anybody that week that may have had this conversation. Most times nobody shows up, but every now and then 1 or 2 people will show up from that conversation, and we're prepared for it, okay? All right, last one, number 6 is whenever possible, follow up. Let me explain what I mean by that. How many of you guys ever had somebody who didn't show up for their first lesson that scheduled it? Didn't show up for their second lesson? How long are you supposed to follow up for? What's the classic response? How long are you supposed to bug them?
Until they tell you to go away.
Until they say don't bug me anymore. That's the rule, right? The reality is, I don't know about you, I used to quit after 2 or 3 tries. So I have a guy that works for me, he's actually a general manager of our schools, his name is Kenny Ruby. This is going back 25 years. Ken at the time was was a program director at one of our locations. And this gal, Gina Lavaseur, DNS, did not show 6 times. 6 times, okay? And Ken just kept on calling back, and finally she showed up. She ended up being a paying student for 7 years. Then she worked for us as a program director for the following 3 years until she got married. She met her husband at school and ended up moving away. Okay, she was with us for 10 years. She was an outstanding instructor. She was a paying student for 7 years tuition. You guys have the idea. But more important than any of that is she actually came to us. The reason why she was so flaky is that she had a few addictions that she's having a hard time dealing with. That through martial arts, she was able to give those up. Okay. What would have happened if Ken wouldn't have made that 6th call? You guys got me on that? So in theory, it's easy to say keep following up, but it really does. It really is worth doing, okay? So our strategy is we'll alternate call, text, write. Well, that's kind of how we'll do that. We'll just keep them in the loop. By the way, I mentioned that, but this is a great time for to go after your old leads because everybody's getting back into the routine of the school year. So a great time to go back in. So follow up whenever possible. All right. So if in doubt, resort back to the very first one. That always gives you the courage to make that conversation. I don't want to call and bug them. Oh man, I don't want to. Remember the first one. They're going to thank you later. And that, I tell you what, that's for me, that's incredibly powerful. All right, I don't know if you can see this, but what I did here is I posted what my guys are. I have a bunch of, most of my staff are martial arts junkies. They're guys that love martial arts like I love martial arts, right? And they're not always like business people first. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not always their favorite aspect. But we have I have 50 full-time instructors. Okay, that's all they do is teach martial arts. And in that, I did 50, by 50 full-time employees, I have another 165 that are part-time. I'm not saying that to impress you, but that's more students than I had for the first 5 years I was in business, right? I'm saying that to say it really is possible to do that. But with my guys, out of those full-time instructors, there's maybe 30 that are full-time instructors. There's another 20 that do office work or admin or program with. Out of those guys, man, if I ask them to do some things on weekends, like stand out in front of Walmart with a clipboard and enroll students, that they're not doing this. They're going to go do something else, right? I get that. They're really good at teaching. So I let them pick what they want to do as far as recruiting members. I don't really care as long as we set a goal. Our goal for August is, let's say, our goal is 18 new members for the month of August. Okay? All right, Mr. Manager of this location, what are you going to do to get 18 members? Let's talk about it. And this is kind of our menu, if you will. Okay, in the middle, you can read those words. If not, it says teach great classes. Always got to do that. The words around it are, student-parent communication, all the things we talked about in the first slide. Then what this is, they can go in any one of these quadrants and do anything they want. This is just so people don't forget. Over here, what you see is the word ask. Let's start with, I know it's hard to read, inactive students. Here's the deal. How many of you guys have been in business for more than 3 years? How big is your inactive list? A lot bigger than you wish it was. Is that fair to say? I can't tell you how many thousands of people I have. I'm not proud of it. I have on my inactive list. Okay? How many of you guys have ever had somebody that came back to you after being gone a year or two? Do you realize how many of your former members want to come back? They're a conversation away from it. I don't know which ones they are, but I promise you, you guys have bumped into an old student at the grocery store. So, I'm meaning to come back. I'm going to get back in. Okay? I had a guy, his name is Jared Evers, quit with me when he was 15. He came back at 32, 17 years later. And that was about 7 years ago. He's about 40 now, right? And the reason why he came back is because he was on our newsletter list. And he kept on kind of seeing it. But he says, I've been wanting to come back for years, I just haven't gone around to it. Had I picked up the friggin' phone, I would have gotten back way sooner. Does that make sense? So you right now think, what can I do to get more members? Pull out your inactive list right now and go through it. You don't have to call everybody. By the way, if you have in your software package where it sends out an inactive letter, you guys know what I'm talking about? That it puts in their name, that's all great. You should do that. But honestly, how many guys right now can pull out your phone and have a bunch of emails that you're never going to look at? You're just going to delete it. Do you realize that that's probably where you're at when you send out information to your student body? They don't read it from cover to cover. I promise you. Most of your students are too busy as well, okay? So you can do that, but don't think you really address reactivation because you have a reactivation campaign where you send out some mailer, or you know what I'm saying, or email. That's good to do, but nothing like going through the roster, looking for people that you have great rapport with. Oh man, oh, that's right. He broke his arm playing softball. He was supposed to come back after the season. He never did. Let me see what he's up to, and pick up the phone. It's not a hardcore sales call. It's just a, hey, how you doing call. How many guys would you think would be pretty cool if your old high school teacher called you out of the blue just to say hi? It'd be cool, right? That's all you're doing. And if you find that he moved away to Boston, he's going to Harvard, you're probably not going to ask him if he wants to come back to class next Tuesday, right? But a lot of times, it's a great conversation. And start with people you have the best rapport with because you're going to have the most likely to get results, and it makes the call easier. Does that make sense? But really powerful. Okay, parents. If you have a junior program, look out in the stands. You decide every day, I'm going to find a parent and I'm going to have that discussion with them. Okay? And that's why I'm a fan of May is mom's train-free month, June is dad's train-free, August is sibling month, things like that to kind of draw that family in. Okay? Next one, it says siblings. So how many, if you have a kids program, you all have a 7 or 8-year-old that's been training with you for 3 years. You guys got that, starting there about 5. That has a little brother that was only 2, 3 years ago. How old are they now? 5 years old. They're one conversation away from getting started. Okay, they just, mom and dad, they're ready for you to go, hey, you know your son's 5 now, he's ready to go. Let's get him started. Have you guys ever done that? Anybody? I'm the only one? Okay, it worked? Yeah. So you might not get them all, but you're not going to, I promise you, you're going to have better success if you ask than if you don't ask, right? Okay, old leads, friends, you guys get the idea, okay? So that's one, that, by the way, that there, right there, if you just do that alone, that's good for 2 or 3 members a month, probably, right there, okay? Move down here, it says high quality external events, booths, school assemblies, self-defense clinic, etc. I think it's really important to get out in the community. Anybody here a member of our program, Martial Artists Against Bullying? Anybody a member of that? So if you go to donewithbullying.com, it's our nonprofit, it's completely free, 100% free. I originally was going to market it to the industry, but I just didn't, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with making a living off a really good program, but I just didn't want to monetize it. I just felt like, it need to be out there. This is a accumulation of years and years of research. I personally have done probably almost 1,000 assemblies on this subject. And so it's not just what to do. If if guy bullies you, plumb strike in the nose and kick him in the groin. I mean, that's not what this is about. Nothing wrong with that, right? But it's why you wouldn't want to be a bully, what to do if you see someone else being bullied, a concept we call buddying, and they're small, they're small, huddle discussions you can put in your regular classroom, and it's a whole presentation so you can actually go out into the public, okay? And so I strongly encourage, like I said, it's just you have to register. The only caveat, the only catch is that there's a thing you have to basically check off that says your intention here is to serve your community, not just to get new members. What I mean by that, I'm all about getting new members, but if you go to do this kind of stuff and your whole intention is just to see how many leads you can get off this event, people will see through that in a heartbeat and you're never going to get back to that school again. But if you go there with the mindset of you're really helping these kids, giving them value, and establishing a relationship with that school, man, over time that will pay you massive dividends. Okay, massive dividends. Okay, so we've got a thing we do with our county. It's called a Live Safe training program. It's a contract. It took me 10 years to get this. Okay, to where we work with county workers. I've got several of them. About every month we do one. We'll have 25 workers. It's a really nice, a gig. They get paid by the county, and it's really cool. So that's also a vehicle. But then from there, we will, at the end of that, they've allowed us to give them recruiting tools that we can do to draw them in to continue the training. So you find ways to get out there is what it's about. And that wasn't easy for us, right? The door kept on closing, the door kept on closing. I go over here, and I go over there, and I go over there, and over time, we worked it out. But it's because we try to put together a good program. We're trying to serve our community first. That would be intent, you know. And up the top it says high quality internal events. Now I'm a big fan of referral events. How many of you guys have some kind of event this the month of August at your school that people can come to? What do you got?
Water fun day.
Water fun day. Yeah, Kids Day, Water Fun Day. Okay, it's good. And the summer parts. Dump the instructor, massive, man. Yeah, there will be a big line for you, I'm sure.
Yes, there will.
Okay, what do you got?
Jitsu tournament.
Jitsu tournament. Okay, that you're really promoting people to show up to. All right, awesome. Give me something else. Somebody else have one.
We do a family day.
Family day.
So we do a bunch of different expos, we'll do carjackings, we'll do all kind of different things, or even abduction drills.
Okay, all right, so there's a different time of the day where you'll cover different aspects of
We
safety.
usually run about 12 different events. So
Totally cool. So a different crowd. People can pick and choose when they want to come in. But
Absolutely.
what you're doing is you're bringing people in to make them aware of your program, man. Really good, really good. Now, are they all going to enroll? No. But here's the deal. If I come to your school and I go through a carjacking scenario with you, right? And what's your name?
Keith.
Keith. All right, Keith. Where's your school?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Baton Rouge. Okay, I go through a carjacking weekend. I had no intention of really enrolling in a martial arts program. You know what I mean? I just wanted to move some carjacking. And let's say the timing isn't right for me, so I go through this program, I have a good time, I love your class, I leave, I don't enroll. Was it still worth doing for me to have me there?
Absolutely.
Why?
Word of mouth.
Yeah, man.
You can tell somebody else.
Exactly. Every time from now on, forever, when the subject of self-defense comes up, I remember that day and I'm referring you. How many of you guys have the best mechanic? Like the guy that works on your car is like the best mechanic in your area. Maybe you have the best mechanic. Am I the only one? Right, you guys know what I'm saying? My guy is Steve. I honestly don't know if he's the best mechanic, but I refer him all the time. You guys, you're right? And now you kind of, people like to give information, right? Now they have something you can do. So even if people come into your school and they don't enroll, if they have a great experience, they kind of, they're in the back of your mind and it's going to come up. And when they drive down, they go, yeah, I remember that day, that was a great day. And who knows when they might do it. So really important to have events at your school. So the reason for this, I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. I'm trying to give, everybody's got different things they need in their school. I'm trying to give everybody a few ideas that they can put to work. The best way to do nothing is to try to do everything. And meaning if you try to do 16 things, by the way, that's my advice for this whole weekend, okay, this whole day. How many of you guys already got a bunch of great ideas for your school? Hopefully you have. It's okay to hear a good idea and not act on it. Because I'm saying it's totally okay. Because if you try to act on too much, you're going to walk away Tuesday, nothing's different. So the key thing is to laser beam in on one or two things that are going to make a difference and make that happen. Okay? So what this is this is what we do in our school, and I let my guys decide what it is they want to do. I didn't even really touch search engine optimization. There's some people here that are really good at that, but of course that's a whole other level and way. But I would really, we do a lot of stuff there. We do a lot of stuff on Facebook. We're very successful with it. But traditional methods are still good. You know what I'm saying? And like, if you swing the pendulum totally to not doing anything, all this online, I think you get out of the habit of doing some basic stuff that might cost you somewhere down the line. Okay? So definitely that's stuff you should look into. If you're not looking at it, you should. You should aggressively. If you don't understand it, like I'm a yellow belt at Facebook, okay? But I got 2 people on my team that are 3-degree black belts. You guys know what I'm saying? So someone needs to know what's going on. And you just find, if there's somebody in your local in your school that can help you with that. But do not, I think it's a mistake in my opinion to put all your eggs in one basket. Here's what happened. With leads that you generate online, all the work happens basically when you have a referral, once they come in, are referrals easier to enroll than somebody that took an ad? You guys know what I'm talking about? They're whoever referred them was a raving fan of your program. They already know how much it costs. All those things are done. Okay? With the leads online, all the work happens after you get the lead. You guys understand what I'm talking about? Yeah. Is with a referral, it's all work happens before you get it. So they're both important. But I would make sure that I wouldn't give up on all my traditional methods of marketing. Okay. I mean, I don't think we need to do door hangers anymore. I was talking with a guy who's doing door hangers for a school in apartments. I haven't done that in a long time, and I don't think that's the best use of time, right? But self-defense clinics, buddy days, that kind of stuff, and that's always going to be good. Questions? Anywhere along the way? What time are we done? 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? I got 10 minutes. All right, guys, what I'm about to show you in my mind is seriously the single best thing you can do to help your school get to the next level, okay? But we don't have time to do it, so never mind, I'll do it next time. All right, this is what I need to do. I'm actually going to back up so you can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. Your name, sir?
David.
David. Good name, David. I like that name. All right. Would you help me out? Sure. Your name, ma'am?
Jude.
Jude?
Julie.
Julie, will you help me?
Sure.
Come on out. You, David and Julie, come on out. Give them a round of applause. I need someone to come out there. Someone to come out their phone, put it on stopwatch mode. Okay? Who's got a phone? Let me know. Raise your hand when you got a phone ready to go with stopwatch. Who's got it? Okay, great. So come on over here, Julie and David. Let me set this up. Okay? We're going to do this for David is your son. He is Julie, he's 9 years old. He's been training with you for 6 months. Okay? He's orange belt. By the way, this is really important for our role playing. You love the program. Okay? All right? You started with him because he was super shy, and now he's come out of his shell. Got that? Has everybody got the setup? Okay, so I want to do this, and I'm going to tell you what I did and how you can put it through. Okay? Hey, Julie, you have a moment?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead and start. Yes. Hey, good to see you. All right. David, all right, you're rocking out there. Hey, man, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for being part of the school. Okay? I know I work you really hard. Okay, but without you, I couldn't do what I do. I love that. And thanks for bringing him here. I know there's a lot of things you can do with your time and money, and we really appreciate you having him here. What do you like best about the program?
Well, I've seen him really grow. He was super shy and secure and didn't do boys, and I really am impressed with the fact that he's feeling more confident.
Very cool, very cool. What do you like best about the program? You feel like a superhero. I like it, man. You look like it out there. Very good. So is there anything you can do better that you can think of?
No, I think he's doing the same thing.
Okay, cool. Do you remember when you first started? I know you remember, but you were so shy. You sat on the sidelines for 3 classes. Right? Just 3 classes before we got him out. And look at you now, man. You're yelling loud. You're hitting hard. It's really cool. And I know you set a long-term goal, man. Someday junior black belt. Right? That's years away, and it's not going to be easy. Okay? But I promise you, the day you tie that belt on, it's going to feel really good. And I gotta let you know, it's very natural for kids. I know so far he's done the program. It's very natural for kids to want to quit. So do adults. But you know what? It's we call it. You want your child to develop the perseverance muscle or the quit muscle. You know what the quit muscle is? That's when you think about quitting, you quit. Guess what happens? That muscle gets stronger. You don't want to get difference. And you want to get perseverance. And the only way that happens is if you keep training. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what. Someday you're going to be awesome if you keep up the hard work. By the way, I'd love to have other kids just like David. Do you have any friends who benefit from the program?
Sure.
You do? Okay, can I give you a couple best against classes?
Sure.
You know we have Buddy Day next Friday. Can you bring a couple friends to it? Sure, awesome. One last thing. I see you on Facebook all the time. Have you given us a 5-star review yet?
I'll get it right on.
Like today?
Sure.
All right, you have to do a lot of push-ups if you doesn't do it, okay? All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, good deal. Good time coming for time.
Minute 44.
Minute 44 seconds. So now, let me tell you what we just did, because a lot just happened, okay? Now I'm going to take you to the side, and we cover a lot of bases here. We call this an 8 steps to progress check. It will transform your school. It's something we've been doing in our school for 3 or 4 years. And let me explain exactly how we designed this and why we designed it. Okay, step number 1, and you really write these 8 words. This is the longer version. Write these words on a piece of paper. Thanks. Below thanks, write best. Below best, write better. Below better, write past. Below past, write present. Below present, write future. Below future, write referral. Below referral, write review. So the words are going to be thanks, best, better, past, present, future, referral, review. Now let me explain what's going on here. The very first step, I thank Julie for being a part of the school. Why is that important?
So they know you're grateful.
Yeah, we should. Do you guys understand that they are our boss? You guys understand that? When they quit, they fired us. Okay, they fired us when they quit. All right, so I should thank you. But how does Julie feel when I thank her? She feels appreciated. Man, you all got a thank you note. A really sincere thank you note. You didn't read it one time and throw it away. You read it, you studied it, you put it on your, I have a whole, some of you guys do, I have a whole bullet board in my office of that kind of stuff. You might too, right? Because that means something. So I'm sincerely thanking you. Step number 2 was best. I'm asking her what she likes best about our program. Why is that important? Because I want her to focus on that. You guys got that? Sir, yes sir. I want her to focus on what she likes best about the program. So that's step number 2, okay? Step number 3 is, what can we do better? Now in your case, you said nothing, keep doing what you're doing. By the way, I find that we hear that about 4 out of 5 times, that's what we hear. But every now and then, someone will tip their hand and they will tell you why they were going to quit if they were going to quit. They'll say something like, you know, every time I go to class, you're always picking off Bob, the guy who never showers. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, something like that. Or you know, since you switched the classes, man, it's hard for me to get to the class that late at night. Or they're telling you why you might quit, okay? And so maybe you can fix it, maybe you can't, but it's good to know, right? I had this gal, her name was Catherine Young. She trained with me for a decade. And she would come up to me about every 3 months and she'd say, "Sir, can I speak to you?" And it was like, oh no, here it is again. She'd have a friggin' list of things. Okay, the bathroom, there wasn't any soap, that kind of stuff. But I came to appreciate her because she was really, that was her way of kind of helping out the school, was pointing out the things that were, and almost always she had something to say. You know what I'm saying? She had something of value. So those people can be a benefit. They can be a pain in the rear, I know, right? But so, you know, how can we improve is an important question to ask your current students, okay? Now, steps 4, 5, and 6, past, present, future. By the way, this is based on, I put these together using neuro-linguistic programming. There's a certain syntax to the question, a certain word in which they're asked. So past, present, future, this comes from what's called a Dickens pattern. You familiar with the Dickens pattern? It's basically, it's based on Scrooge. It goes through Christmas, past, present, future. Okay, so what you're doing is I was taking David down memory lane and I reminded him that he used to be super shy because guess what? Julie forgot. Oh yeah, that's right, he was that shy. So I'm reminding them where they were, okay? Then I'm reminding them where they are, and what that does, that helps them see where they can go. So I'm having to replant a seed for the future. Everybody follow me? Really a valuable drill. By the way, I have no problem telling someone they're going to lose interest in training. Okay? As a matter of fact, I think it's probably a good thing, because if you tell people, oh, you're going to love it, it's great. It's not always. You're not always going to love it. You guys don't always love training. Okay? Sometimes you don't want to friggin' train. You guys with me on that? Sometimes it's just hard work. And so, I think it's okay to tell people that, okay? By the way, it's not always going to be fun, but I promise then that you always follow, you'll always be glad you did it. Any of you guys wish you would have quit 5 years ago? I promise you don't. You're all glad you stuck it out, okay? But I think pre-framing ahead of time that, hey, you're going to lose interest. It's natural, okay? Don't worry, just fight through it. You'll get your interest back, okay? Is that true? Am I telling the truth? Yeah, because all our training is ebbs and flows, you know, hills and valleys. All I do is we're improving. And so I think being upfront about that is a good thing, okay? Now, if I'm trying to get my son loves to martial arts training, all of a sudden he doesn't want to go to class anymore, and I remember him saying, oh, Mr. Kovar said he was going to lose interest, but not to worry about it, we get him through it. Okay. It doesn't guarantee they're not going to continue, but it sure does stack the odds in favor that they're going to. Okay? So that's 4, 5, and 6, and then 7 is you look them right in the eye and you ask them for referral. And my favorite line is, I'd love to have another student just like you. Do you have any friends that could benefit from the program? Okay? And number 8 is, by the way, guys, would you guys all please do me this favor? I need everybody to do it. Just everybody raise your left hand, please. I need everybody to do it. Please look around the room. So we got the left hand up. Oh, cool. Put your hand down. Why did you do that?
Because you asked us.
Because I asked you to. Ask them for a 5-star review. Okay? If they're on Yelp, you on Yelp, but you give us a review. People will be happy to do it. By the way, this is an assumption that they're the raving fan. Does everybody follow? If they're not a raving fan, the program's okay. This is a whole different discussion. Okay? Now, the reason why I had you time this, okay, because people don't realize how fast they can get a lot done. We took 1 minute and 49 seconds, is that what you said? 44. Okay, 44. Less than 2 minutes. Time does not equate to value, right? And had a meaningful dialogue. By the way, would it be nice if I had more time? Yes, it would be nice. But if you take too much time, then you're not doing these at all. You guys follow me? You're going to go, oh, it takes 10 minutes? I don't have time for 10 minutes. But you can all make time for 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
How often do you recommend this type of process?
It's an excellent question. We try to get to it twice a year. Let me tell you how we set it up. If you try to schedule these appointments and you get out your calendar and you start making, it takes longer to do them than it does to schedule them. It takes less time to do them. What I would recommend is forget that. Print out a list of all your students. You got every list on student. And I'm kind of old school, so I like paper, okay? But print every student on your list, okay? And then get a yellow marker. We in all our schools, we have a student list with a yellow marker attached to with a rubber band, okay? If I talk to you, I run over the yellow marker, I put my name through it, okay? And your name through it, done. I try to get this list completely filled out, and then we just start over again. By the way, some people are hard to get a hold of, right? But some you might have to do on the phone, some might you have to chase out to the car to talk to them. But only do this with the students you want to keep. Right? You find the friggin' way to do it. You guys got that? I promise you, put that to work. You do 1 a day, that's 20 a month. Okay? It will be, just think, if I do 20 a month, do you think there's a chance that I might get 1 or 2 more referrals a month?
Yeah.
Do you think I might keep 1 or 2 students from quitting a month?
Yeah.
Let's say that's an average, I get 1.5 new members because of this 2 minutes, and I keep 1.5 new members from quitting. That's 3 a month, that's 36 a year. If my retention is good, I'll have 30 more members than I do right now a year from now, just based on 2 minutes a day. Okay? I know I'm simplifying it, guys, but it really makes a big difference. Okay? By the way, most people, I talked about this last year, I think. right? Most people need to hear this 3 or 4 or 5 times before they really put it to action. I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you go back to work and you start role-playing with it right away, okay? So I'll be around on the next couple of days if I can give any help. We have a program where we coach other schools. You can, I'll be around, come up and talk to me if you're ever interested in hearing more about it. Otherwise, I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys today, and have a great day. All right, and class is dismissed.